So let's have a look at this slide. Wow, I would say with regards to this title, your customer health score may be quite useless. So who of you guys is using CHS in your business? Or even quite a few. So probably you wonder what the heck are these guys talking about, right? You see on the next slide how everything has started. It was literally a Kiwi, me, and an Israeli, Boaz, were walking into a cafe in Silicon Valley, and we were talking about customer success, and I'm very passionate about this, as Boaz is. And we talked about what matters in customer success. And it was a very passionate discussion and yielded in the end in something what we call customer maturity. So what was the trigger, the starting point of our thoughts here? This slide is one slide which I really love from my very early days, is being in customer success. It's really, for me, something about why we are all here. It's about our customers. That's the only reason and purpose why we're here. And I felt or feel that sometimes when we talk about LTV, first-time response, etc., sometimes it feels for me that we're talking more about us rather than our customer. It's certainly correct that CHS has its place, so we should not stop this. It's important to do this because we understand where the customer is right now, what we want to do as the next steps, and what is the outcome of those steps. So that is all logic, makes sense. We should continue with this. The other aspect you bring in is certainly the segmentation. So we all, I reckon, do segment our customer base. It certainly matters if a customer has joined, let's say, 1 week ago or 3 years ago. We segment by location, etc., and all the other reasons you see over there. But still, there was something which we felt something is missing in this picture to get a clear view on the customer health score, and therefore we have chosen this blurry picture. And now Boaz is going to tell you a little bit about this something. So he has 2 examples he's going to share with you.
Thanks, Ralf. So let's try to take specific examples. I was a VP of customer success at a company called Mashery. Mashery provided API management solutions to customers. And let me talk to you about 2 customers of mine that on the face of it were both healthy and exactly the same. One is a large retailer. The other one was a large information management company. So from a size, if I start with the segmentation, from a size perspective, they are both large customers. They were both West Coast based, so the same location. And they both have been with us for a number of years. So from a stage perspective, they are also at the same segment. From a health score perspective, high usage, strong relationship up and down the management level, from working level people to management, repeat expansion with both of them, and high CSAT. So on the face of it, they were both healthy customers. The thing is that they were extremely different from one another, right? What we thought were the same from a health score perspective turned out to be completely different from the perspective of what should we do with them. You see, the first customer, the retailer, had a single office where they supported a single business. They are a company that grew organically, and therefore they had a very, very strong team of people that were very professional. When they interacted with us, it was all about how fast can you get with the next feature, how cutting through the edge of your execution SLAs, right? When the response time turned down from 99.96 to 99.94, I would get a call from their VP. They were that good, right? The other customer operated out of 3 offices in multiple offices supporting 3 different businesses because they grew by acquisition. And they had a very complex environment that also meant a varying degree of quality among their team. They spent a lot of their time and their energy in their team getting their house in order, organizing their infrastructure, getting systems working at the same levels, upgrading the level of people in some businesses, etc., etc. So their interaction with us was completely different. So as you can see, the health was the same on our scoring cards, right? But health alone is not sufficient. Clearly, something is missing, right? The difference between these 2 companies was not in the relationship we had with them, which is what health score is all about. It was in the way they run their business, which is what we call customer maturity index. Now, customer maturity is a concept that existed for a long time. The capability maturity model has been invented in Carnegie Mellon universities back in the 1980s and has been since propagated to books and conferences and models to just about every function in the business. In fact, I'm willing to bet every one of your companies is using maturity models in some areas. Let me give you one example. Anybody in this room has sales people that are qualifying their leads? Of course you do, right? Some of that qualification is not about you, it's all about that customer. Do they have budget? Are they big enough? Are they ready to use our solutions, right? Those are characteristics of the customer irrespective of us. The sales team or the marketing team, depends who does that, wants it to be a singular decision, yes or no, qualified or unqualified. Unqualified, don't deal with them, we don't have time. Qualified, let's try to sell them. The thing is that customers are not binary. Customers go on the continuum. They reside somewhere between completely immature to extremely mature, right? And there are different characteristics to those that we, in customer success, as we manage customers, need to acknowledge. There might be some customers on the very low end where their ability to use your software is very limited. In order to do that, they need a lot of services, which means that your gross margin is low, maybe even negative, which means that your CAC ratio, right, the time it takes you to recoup the investments, is too long. Conclusion, you probably don't want to sell or maybe not want to serve those customers, right? But even those that come beyond it, right, those are the qualified leads that became customers, they're also not singular. They go on a continuum, right? At the very low end, if you want to make them successful, you need to invest in services to them. Their ability to charge revenue on software is limited. The need to charge for services is high. Consequently, gross margin is low. And again, you have a highly hard to scale situation. As you move upward on the maturity curve of customers, customers are able to use more of your solution. They are able to use higher features, which means you can charge them higher dollars for software. At the same time, they don't need as much services. They get it, they can do things on their own, and the combination is high revenue, high gross margin, scalable business. This is where we want to get to. But each of the groups here have different characteristics that we need to manage. This is why the concept of customer maturity is so different from customer health score. You see, customer health score, at its heart, is a measure of the relationship between you and your customers. And it's aimed at predicting the trajectory: churn, retain, expand. Customer maturity is completely different. It's a measure of the sophistication by which your customers run their business, and consequently, can they use your solutions? The aim of that characteristic, right, the customer maturity index, is to predict or advise you what should you do with that customer to help their problem, not yours. Sometimes they correlate, but not all the time. So if we were able to convince you that this is worthwhile thinking of, your next question in your mind should be, okay, Boaz, Ralf, yeah, we think this is probably worth spending time on. How should we do that? Well, the bad news, there is no cookie cutter approach to this. If we are saying that customer maturity measures the maturity of your customers, and every business you are selling to is different from others in this room, then you need to generate your own customer maturity characteristics, right? The good news is that we have developed a methodology that we believe will take you some, maybe most of the way there, right? I don't know if it's 50 or 60 or 70 or 80%, but if it helps you get there, then we are better off. Let's walk through this methodology. Borrowing from other maturity models, we believe that to assess a function, say customer success, this is what we do, you need to look at 4 characteristics. The charter, is it clear? Is it high level? Is it sophisticated enough? Does the function have enough support and clout in the organization to make decisions, right? To get things done? Is it senior enough in how it's structured? People. Are the roles and responsibilities clearly defined, or is everybody doing what they feel to solve a problem, right? Are there enough people to do the job, or are they overworked, in which case they can't really get to the kind of solutions you ask them to do? Do they have track record of success in the people that are working? Then we move into processes. Are their processes well defined? Are they repetitive? Are they learning processes? Do they capture knowledge from what they do and embed it into improvement? Or it's a process and people do, and if the process doesn't work, you never know because you don't capture knowledge about it. And then technology. Technology is a means to create scalability, to help get things done. But in many organizations, we found out, I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir, that technology is an inhibitor. If the technology, the IT environment is too complex, too many point solutions, it's an inhibitor for us to do our business. So is the use of tools effective or not? Are there enough good reports or not? Is the environment supporting or slowing down the business? Now, this is a methodology, it's a starting point. What you need to do in your organizations is to figure out which are the right questions that go in there and then expand them into some kind of a survey look-like structure so you can actually score. So what we've done here is the three columns on the left-hand side are the same ones you've seen before, and then there's an explanation of what is low versus high, and what we suggest is to score it on a 1 to 5 scale, which is the common recommended structure for surveys, 1 being low, 5 being high. Let's take an example. We took a customer in this business, and we scored them on each one of those questions on a scale of 1 to 5, created an average for that category, and using weights, created a total customer maturity index of 2.4 for that customer. 2.4 on a scale of 1 to 5 is fairly low. Now you can think about, okay, so what do I do with it? And this is where it becomes interesting, because like Ralf was saying, what we want is to combine the customer health score, what is the level of relation between us and your customers, and the customer maturity to give you real insight into what to do with the business. So let's try to run an analysis like this. For the sake of simplicity, let's assume high versus low customer health score, high versus low customer maturity. By the way, if you go into our blog site, we're going to publish the third part of this series about it, and we'll present a methodology that's a bit broader and more in-depth, but for the sake of time in this, let's look at 2 by 2. If you were only looking at customer health score, then you have low health score customers and high health score customers. The low ones you need to save, the high ones you need to expand with, right? Not enough, right? This was the aha moment I had when I talked with Ralf. Intuitively, we know there are other characteristics here, we just couldn't put our finger on it. Well, customer maturity index give you that analysis. For example, if the customer has low health score and low maturity, you have 2 problems to fight at the same time, and that's normally not a good suggestion, not something that is easy to do, right? You both need to increase the level of relations with that customer, but also you need to teach them about how to run their business. That might be too hard, so you may want to either churn them proactively, Mr. Customer, you're not ready to use my software, we'll talk to you next year if you're ready, or do nothing and let them churn on their own if they can. If you have a lot of resources, go at doing everything. If you're strapped on resources, you need to make tough decisions. If on the contrary, if the customer has low health score with you, but is mature in their business, those are the ones you want to focus on saving. Those are the ones you want to invest in. You need some services to invest them in the relationship. You want to teach them about your product. You want to do training. You want to give them the right solutions. You want to tell them about the most advanced features you have. They're advanced, right? They know what to do. They'll figure it out. You need to improve your relations because from a maturity perspective, they're good. The high and high are the easy customers, right? These are the ones who are both solid in their business and like you. They're the ones you want to sell more features to. They know their business. They know it's good, assuming your service is of high value. They're also the ones that you want to put in your customer advisory board because they can advise you on the next set of features. They're the ones you want to do advocate marketing with because they're the thought leaders in their industry. They're the people that others respect. They're the ones you want on your website in case studies and promotions, etc. Which is completely different from customers with whom you have high health score but are low on maturity. For some reason they like you, and maybe they are using you in some good manner, but they're not mature in their business. If you are so normally you would say, I need to retain them. If you have the aptitude for more services, if you're willing to invest, by all means, you can try to move them from low maturity to high. But you need to acknowledge that that will require a lot of services, which means lower gross margin. If you're up to date, by all means. If you're not, this is the distinction between which customers to invest in and which customers are not. Make sense? So far, it's all theory, right? And theory is only good as good. So what we'd like to do in the next 9 minutes is walk you through a real-life example of customer maturity index in the real world. Ralf has implemented that at Promapp and is going to walk through what he did and how he did it to make it work. Right?
So I take you now onto a journey and put the last 12 months, more than 500,000 minutes, into just 5 minutes. So that's certainly a challenge, but let's see how that goes. Just a few words about Promapp. We're a New Zealand-based company operating globally. We have a SaaS product which allows you to create, maintain, and deploy business process maps. We have a module which allows you to run continuous improvement ideas and suggestions. And we have a third module which is about risk management, because every process is linked to risks. This is all what we need to know about this. So a lot of process-related stuff. And when I joined the company in 2015, we had a very challenging situation because our churn was a little bit going through the roof. It was more than 10%. And we were wondering, okay, what's the root cause of this? And what we did then, quite obviously, we talked to our customers. And when we talked to our customers, the first surprising aspect was for us, it was not about our product, it was not about our service, it was about our customer and their organization. And later we connected the dots to their maturity in their organization. Based on this, we then thought, how can we kind of create a pattern? How can we create a framework around this? And what we have, we're quite lucky in our industry at least, there are very well-established maturity models. CMMI is something we're using, and which is well known. The PIM is the other one. So we looked at those frameworks and thought, okay, what can we apply from this framework? And I will share a little bit of those details with you in a second. Certainly then we had the question, okay, how does now what we defined as maturity index, how does it then correlate with the customer health score? Because we were curious what the outcome here is. And then the last bullet point is about we had to make a very specific decision as well with regards to which kind of services are we offering and which we're maybe not offering. So the next slide shows you a very brief summary of our survey. So we have created a survey. We have identified out of this huge framework those 8 areas which we consider as the most critical success factors in our projects and onboarding of our customers. Really strong dotted lines back to what we've learned from our customers. And then we just rank them 1 to 5. So if we pick one, let's say the strategic direction, then there is a very short description, and then the very simple ranking, 1 to 5. Maybe you think, oh, is that really enough? What we want to do here at this stage is to keep it absolutely simple. We don't want to come up with a framework like this. I don't want to come up with a very complicated ranking system. This is something I can give to, sorry about salespeople, to salespeople or pre-salespeople. They will accept this. They can very fast go through this, and we can use this in our onboarding. And we use this as well later in the adoption phase. Now, how does the result look like? A result, and this is an example from one of our customers, looks like this. The result is a radar chart. When you look at the red radar chart, this is the result of the ranking. I can already tell you that this customer will churn regardless of the CHS factor because they're not mature enough. They can maybe be happy with our software, the utilization is high, et cetera, but they will churn. And this is what we have proven based on our data. So therefore, the index for us is low, which means I need to do something with this customer, otherwise they will churn. That was our learning curve and the result of that. So this is the diagram you have seen, and Boaz has already introduced you to that. We're now at the decision point. The bottom left, okay, we let them churn. It's probably too hard for us to bring them in both directions to a higher level. Those ones in the bottom right, they're actually quite mature. The only point is the customer health score is not so good. Let's say the usage is not so good. So we decide, okay, what do we need to do? training. Give them some tailored training because their organization is mature enough. So just the training lifts them to the corner where we want to have our customers. And then on the top left, that was the interesting thing then suddenly for us, because now we had to make a decision. Do we want just to retain them over there, or do we want to bring them over to the right-hand side, so the top right corner? And for some of our customers, we have now decided we will invest from our end some additional services and offer these services as well to these customers that they can go into this other quadrant. What does that mean? We have maybe one, so in a broader organization, one business unit, they're really happy with us, and certainly we have an interest to go into other business units. But if they have no concept, in our case for process governance, they have no concept how to introduce that in their entire organization, it's just for the team. Then we need to help that team to communicate this to the other parts of the business. And this is where we offer our additional services. So we have decided not just to leave them there, no, we want to have them as well in the top right corner. And the last thing what we then did, we looked at use cases, because we learned then as well, when we have customers in the top right corner, there are some customers who, I must admit, never churn. A customer who's using our risk module, for instance, we have not even one customer in the last 10 years who has churned, because that requires a very mature, let's say, organization. And on the other side, we need to make sure that their health score is high. They're in the top right corner. And then now I can say, you know what, I'm feeling very comfortable, retention will be very high. Where are we now, and what's the result? 12 months later, the churn is down, just really by looking at what we call the maturity index. Yeah, we've done a few other things, sure, but that was the major impact. Yeah, sure, we have now created, are in the process to create playbooks and all the standard stuff we already know. We're currently wondering, to be honest with you, do we need to look at the segmentation again? That's a question mark. I have not yet the answer, to be honest. If there are some suggestions, then we're more than happy to get those ideas. And last but not least, actually not a surprise, but that was a learning curve for us. We had to uplift the knowledge of the team. We had to tell them, hey, this is process governance. This is what it means. Put yourself into the shoes of the customer. We have heard a lot of good stuff this morning as well from the other presentations. So that really, I see a lot of dotted lines to that. It's no longer just whatever calling the customer and looking a little bit at the health score. No, you really need to understand their business. That was some big difference. So that was in 12 months and 5 minutes, roughly.
So hopefully we were able to convince you that health score alone is insufficient to provide you a good view into your customers. It provides you a blurry picture of where the customers are and what needs to happen with them. But if you incorporate customer maturity assessment into that, you should be able to have a clear vision of what to do and how. Now, if you like what you heard, and especially if you don't, we'd like to hear from you. So 3 options. Option number 1, at lunchtime, we are going to sit at table number 7. Anybody who wants to talk to us about what else we have and tools that we have from this assessment that can help you, by all means, come and listen to us or talk to us or give us feedback. We'd love to hear you on Twitter, either at the conference hashtag or just outside. And also, we have published 2 blog posts about this concept, introducing the problem and qualifying it. The third one is going to come up early next week, where we are going to detail the methodology we just talked about and some of the tools that you can use. Please give us feedback on that as well. We'd love to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. To me, this was a concept that kind of sat with me. Something was wrong when we talked about customer health score, and it was an aha moment when I talked to Ralf and kind of put the finger on, it's the maturity of the customer. So some of the stuff that we're doing here was intuitive, and I kind of, even from the body language during this presentation, it feels like many of you feel the same. It kind of, you probably do some of that already in your daily job. You just don't call it customer maturity. You just do it, right? Irrespective of the customer health score. Having that as a model, as a concept, I think makes it more powerful and can enable that intuition be turned into a real model and a scalable one. So thank you very much.